Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Dubai Autodrome. It is the Gulf Radical Cup race 3 of the weekend. There were 2 sprint races yesterday. This morning we had our qualifying session for this one, the main event, the endurance race, the feature, if you will. And this is going to feature a mandatory pit stop for every driver of 45 seconds of stationary time in the pit window. So they have to be tactical, they have to be brave, they have to be smart, and they have to be very calculated. Hello, everybody. Jake Sanson and Chris Milbourne with you once again for the last Gulf Radical Cup race of the weekend. These guys have been very exciting from the get-go.
They certainly have, and it's an interesting one here because we've done... Yeah, that would be smart, wouldn't it, Jake, to turn on the on-air thing. Yes, it's going to be an interesting one here. This is our longest race of the weekend. We've now upped the format from 2 races in previous seasons now to 3 races. So we've got 2 sprint races of about 25 minutes apiece and now a 45-minute enduro, which make things a little bit more interesting. Now, some things to note here is, of course, there is a mandatory pit stop window that is happening. It's kind of at the halfway point, and at that point at time, the drivers have to come in for at least 45 seconds. Now, it's 45 seconds stationary. It doesn't count from pit in to pit out. They must be stationary for 45 seconds. That's it. The rest of it's fine. If they go any longer than that 45 second, not a problem. If they go under it, which we've seen a number of times in the past, drivers get penalised, and of course it can cost you time on track. Now, interesting to note that there are 3 drivers that will carry extra time here to their 45 seconds, and of course is their position from the previous endurance race that was held in a couple of weeks ago down at Yas Marina Circuit. And then, of course, will be George King, who had to sit in for an additional 15 seconds, so his total time is 60 seconds. Then it's 45 seconds plus 10 for car number 5, which is Johnny Kazoom. And then the number 15, which is Amir Faisalin, will have to sit in for an extra 5 seconds, bringing his total up to 50 seconds. So for them, now, strategy really plays out here. Now, another thing to note here during the Gulf Radical Cup races is there's no real team communication besides the pit boards that come out along the start-finish straight. That is the only way the drivers are able to communicate to their teams and their drivers as well. So what happens here is once the driver has gone past the pit window board open, which will be hanging out just underneath the starting gantry, they can then come into the pit lane, and only then can they do it. If they do it beforehand, we have seen drivers be penalised for it, and if they do it obviously afterwards, they get penalised for that as well. So it's all down to strategy, and it has to be kind of figured out before the race actually gets started, so it adds another level of challenge here. We have a total of 15 cars that take the track. It looks like the grid is being cleared here, and it's George King on the front row of the grid with Ian Loggy, and this is going to be a fantastic 45-minute battle between those 2. But we have to take in consideration where Alex Bukanshinov and Ian Roberts is, plus Johnny Kazoom as well, because Alex has been mighty quick this weekend, as has Ian Roberts. He carved his way through the field yesterday like a hot knife through butter.
Indeed. I'm going to put my hand up and make an admission that yesterday I may have done a disservice to Ian Loggy in terms of the close nature of the battle between George King and himself yesterday by suggesting that perhaps George King was not quite in as competitive a position as he is usually seen to be, because Barry Hope does indeed point out that while King may have had engine issues when Loggy was in front, King did set the fastest lap in that race yesterday, and he was very quick indeed. So as Usman Magal also points out, the car didn't appear to be weaker. He had to do something different to what he usually does, and that set a fast lap on his first flyer. So obviously the positions between the 2 of them are actually a lot closer than they have been in recent weeks. So the battle between King and Loggy is going to be fascinating in this enduro because they've got more race time to go through, 45 minutes, and of course George King is going to be sat in the pit lane 15 seconds longer than Ian Loggy. So he's got to try and find 15 seconds of additional time in this race, when we saw yesterday that Ian Loggy and George King are actually incredibly evenly matched.
So talking to Fred Jacobs earlier before, trying to find out what was wrong with George King's car, is it may not have been an engine issue, it may have actually been an electrical issue that caused him some issues, especially that could have come a cropper in that second race as well. That may have resulted in loss of power at certain points, because we did see him drop back, but as Barry Hope suggested, that he was quickest through that in that second race, which is absolutely phenomenal for George King, because he's been absolutely dominant this season. The only race he hasn't won was yesterday, race 2, and actually race 1 as well, kind of thing of it, because Ian Loggy won both races. Granted, George King wasn't in the first race, but the second race, it was a fantastic scrap between the 2 of them, and Ian Loggy had a fantastic move around the outside of turn 16, where he found some sort of grip to keep the car on track and actually find a way past Ian Loggy despite going the long way round here at the Dubai Autodrome. Of course, we're running the full GP circuit, about 5.29 kilometres in length here, 16 corners in total. We've got 2 straights. We've got the front straight and then we have the back straight, and there are 2 other shorter straights that always provide fantastic action as well. Actually, one's got turn 13 in the middle of it, so technically it's not a straight at all because it kind of kinks to the left. But fantastic overtaking opportunities down towards turn 10. We've seen a lot of action happen through there. Turn 12, turn 16, turn 14 as well. That's the bowl, which sort of is a left-hander that sort of undulates upwards as well and provides some very interesting and close racing too here at the Dubai Autodrome. George King looks to be slightly out of place, but we're not having a standing start here for this race. It will be a rolling start for the Golf Radical Cup, so he'll be out and on his way as the safety car peels down towards turn 1 here to lead the field round for the formation lap before the start of our Golf Radical Cup Enduro.
Here we go. Is your adrenaline pumping yet? Because mine certainly is. George King from pole position. Ian Loggy will be second. Third place for Alex Bukansov, and Ian Roberts will be in P4. Then Johnny Kazoum from 5th position. Mohamed Al-Kazemi will be 6th. Then James Sweetnam and Marcus Bamberg. And then we will have Amir Fezulin and Jacobo Mazza. 11th place will be Damian Chosek. Abdulnazar Al-Hamidi in a difficult 12th position for him. Then it'll be Zaire Morad and Ray Yuwang from Julien Moni, who will be in 15th on the grid. 45 minutes of this Dubai Autodrome Grand Prix circuit, which will be working the tyres much more aggressively in Sector 1. There'll be a lot of interesting battles, and of course those pit stops, they have to be stationary for a minimum of 45 seconds, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things can't go wrong on top of that. There could be great battles, there could be all sorts of mechanical problems that could creep in, especially now that the race circuit is at its hottest. It is going to be all day long.
I've noticed that Abdulnasser Al-Hamidi is actually out of position because he's ahead of the 777 and behind the 68 here on the formation lap. So he's going to have to slow up and he's going to have to stay with the 777 if he doesn't want to pick up a penalty, because, of course, they will share row number 6 at the starting line here. And you can see there is Abdulnasser Al-Hamidi at the back of the shot. He's supposed to be behind the car with the white nose cone at the front there, or at the back even, where the Team Pakistan car is as well. So Abdulnasser Al-Hamidi being a bit cheeky here on the formation lap. He's certainly going to have to concede that position soon enough unless he wants to incur a penalty here in the endurance for the Golf Radical Cup. So about part way through the lap here. We should be underway shortly once the cars form up in their positions. Of course, it will be a double file start here, side by side. There's a bit of plastic being kicked up there by one of the cars. Good thing it's not gone into any radiators or anything like that to cause overheating. But as Jake said, it's going to be mighty hot out there today, and it is the hottest part of the day as well here. And there isn't a lot of cooling here, especially when you're going slow. Even at 60 kilometers an hour, you could really feel the heat. And I really do feel for those who have black overalls and black liveries, because it is going to be boiling behind the wheel of the Radicals. They're going to want to get going as soon as they can, and they're going to want to have a faultless and safety car-less race here.
Winds are still high around the circuit, which obviously means that they'll be a little bit cool in certain places on the course, but not cool enough to really feel it unless things are starting to go slightly hairy. So obviously on the start of this race, it is going to be very interesting to see who gets the run to the first corner first. George King and Ian Loggy were very well matched in pace yesterday, and for a change, it was Ian Loggy that won the duel between the two of them, who decided enough of this George King domination must end, and I'm going to be the man to make it happen. So it was fantastic to watch in race 2 yesterday in the sprint. In the endurance, this is going to be about tactics, about strategy, about composure, about discipline, about consistency of lap times, and above all else, it's going to be about who has the street smarts here on the Dubai Autodrome. George King and Ian Loggy guiding the pace of the 2 rows as they come out of the final corner here in the Dubai Autodrome, and then we will have 45 minutes of no holds barred, fastest game of chess you will ever see in your day. This is going to be a tough one as the drivers battle. Ready? The lights are on. They will go out. We're racing at the Dubai Autodrome in the endurance race. Up to the first corner. Good start by both of the front row men. Ian Loggy is going to duel with George King. Looks like a decent launch away from Alex Bukansov as well. He might even get into second place as they come up towards the first corner. Loggy's going to have to concede here and let George King through, but Bukansov is going to hope that there's going to be space for the two of them. Loggy's going to squeeze him, and there's a spinner. That is Sweetnam. Sweetnam has gone around. around, and how on earth did everybody miss him? So James Sweetenham recovers. There will not need to be a safety car, but he just lost the back end of the car completely, just about managed to avoid problems. So George King is in the lead, second Ian Loggy, third Buckensoff. Oh, and a spin from Roberts! Roberts has lost it as he goes through.
Very uncharacteristic there of Ian Roberts, but the good news is he's got going again. James Sweetenham, unfortunately, in the wrong place at the wrong time, but at least this has happened on the first lap, on the first corner, so he has 44 minutes to catch up. Now, Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi, again, looking at the start, he looked like he was slightly further ahead of Koisek, so I'm pretty sure Watford, the stewards, are going to be keeping a very close eye on that 76, as he's already up past the Marcus Bamberg Leighton House number 25 car here, so he's moving up. And he is now trying to defend, but he's sort of weaving across the track there. Very interesting tactics there from Abdel Nasser Al-Hamidi. He's working way through turn 10. Kosiek has unfortunately dropped back. There he is in the 777. And this is a replay of the start. And presumably you're going to see what happened to James Sweetenham.
So let's watch the 54, the black and yellow car in the middle of the field. He's come into turn 1. Ah, that's what happened. So he got chopped across there by the 47, who took the inside line very dramatically. That's Mohamed El Kazemi. Sweetenham, blameless, had absolutely nowhere to go. The front end of the car lost balance, so he just ended up spinning the car around. Now, what's going to be interesting is to see what happened to Ian Roberts, because Ian Roberts just completely lost the car. So James Sweetenham was essentially knocked off the circuit. We're going to look at the Ian Roberts incident a little later. But now we've got an understanding as to what happened to Sweetenham. Roberts is trying to work his way back through the order as we watch Abdul Nazir Al-Hamidi battling away with Marcus Bamberg. And Roberts has fallen back behind Zaire Murad, the Team Pakistani car, as King leads. Loggy second. Then Bukatsov, Kazoum and Al-Kazemi. But Al-Kazemi may be in for an interesting little conversation afterwards, after his moment with James Sweetenham, who has spun away. Now, the pit window will open when elapsed time reaches 17 minutes and close at 26 minutes. So that will give us a little bit of an indication as to how things are going.
And it's about 9 minutes between the pit window opening to the pit window closing. And I think now we're going to get a replay as James Sweetenham has come in the pit lane. I think this is a replay of Ian Roberts. Does he do it by himself, or has he got help?
So now we're going to watch it. Yeah, it looks like he just lost it all on his own. That's a very strange moment for Ian Roberts. He wasn't anywhere near Johnny Kazoum. He didn't get hit. He just suddenly turned in and the car decided, right, the back's going to overtake the front.
That's really unfortunate for Ian Roberts as well, but watch him carve his way through the field in no time as well. Great to see Usman Magal actually in the chat here on the live stream, and he is supposed to be racing with his colleague and of course countryman Zahir Murad, but unfortunately he is not feeling so great, but great to see that he is supporting his teammate here in the Golf Radical Cup. Usman, hopefully we get to see you back out on track later on the Asperida circuit in about 2 weeks time here in the Golf Radical Cup. Incident between cars 47 and 54 is under investigation. Now 54 is
Sweetenham.
It is, and 74 is Al-Kazmi, isn't it? Yes, it is. I'm still kind of concerned about Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi's starting position, well, because he certainly did look like he was out of place, but that may come up on our screens at a later stage. As George King has not been able to shake Ian Loggy. A little bit sketchy there through turn 14.
I think Ian Loggy has done the homework over these last couple of weeks. He has caught up to George King's pace on pure merit. This is not just lackadaisical and a bit of luck. This is the hard work that Ian Loggy and the team have been putting in to close up on George King. And now the battle, the rivalry is real as George King tries to throw the toe away from Ian Loggy. He doesn't want Loggy getting in the slipstream. So a very interesting battle for the contenders so far, but George King and Ian Loggy are going to be at loggerheads for the entirety of this race, with Alex Bukansov in third position. Now, I've been doing the mathematics of the timings. So when the timing on the left-hand side of your screen reaches 28 minutes to go, that is when the pit lane window will open. When there is 19 minutes to go, that is when it will shut. So that is when we can expect the pit stop. So in 12 minutes from now, that's when we'll see the first few drivers coming into the pits.
So it sounds like before we went on air, Jake, my maths was somewhat correct. I just got it the wrong way round.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't far off at all.
Alex Bukanstov is still in close proximity to the top two as well. He's sticking with them. He's only 1/8 of a second back at the moment. And of course, if these two start tangling with one another, and of course, when George King starts to play defensive, he's going to start slowing Ian Loggy down. And for Alex, that's going to be his opportunity to try and make a move on the inside somewhere. It looks like Johnny Kazoum is keeping fourth at bay for the time being. He's got Amir Faisalin tucked up behind him by 5/10 of a second. We've got a battle brewing here for what looks to be sixth position, actually fifth position, because Jacopo Mazza is in the mix as well, down in seventh position. He's only 3/10 of a second back from Faisalin. Then it's Abdul Nasser Al Hamidi in seventh. He's 1.1 seconds back behind that battle, all by Lowson, about 1.2 seconds up the road from Marcus Bamberg. Ian Roberts has gained a little bit of ground. He's up and now into the top 10, but Ray Wang, unfortunately, going backwards. He's now in 12th position as Ian Loggy is the fastest man out there, and that's Johnny Kazoum. No, it's not. That's Amir Faisalin, because that's Jacopo Mazza on the inside, and that's a move for sixth position going through turn 12.
So George King goes out wide now in the hairpin, tucks back in. Ian Loggy and Alex Buchensoff were not quite close enough to his car to take advantage of it. An interesting note on the timing screen that's come up. Incident involving cars 47 and 54, that is Al-Kazemi and Sweetnam. No further action. That's interesting. I don't think James Sweetnam's going to agree with that decision.
Certainly not, Ollie. He's shaking his head in the pit lane right now. He has been in there for quite some time as well. He's now showing 2 laps behind the race leader. So he's going to have to hope to come out soon enough and hope to catch a break at some point. As Ian Roberts now is on the move. He's trying to catch the back of Marcus Bamberg. As you can see, that gap starting now to extend. It's now Al Hamidi is all over the back of Faisalin. He's looking for a way on the inside, but Faisalin shuts the door on him. He's going to try somewhere else. As the 76 slightly loose there through that first corner. And, well, he's going to have to get back in hot pursuit there. Very strong sector 3, though, for Al Hamidi compared to Amir Faisalin, because he was right on the back of him going down the front straightaway. And Amir Faisalin, unfortunately, going the wrong direction now as well, as Jacopo Mazza has gone through, and now he's on the back of Mohamed Al-Kazmi, who in turn is on the back of Johnny Kazoum, who is still now in that battle for fourth position overall here, as there is Johnny Kazoum, who is leading that pack, a bit further back from Alex Buchensoff, as there is George King, and now it looks like he's starting to put a gap between himself and Ian Loggy, because it looks like Buchensoff is putting the pressure on the back of Loggy's car, because he's now lost 2/10 of a second.
Oh, big smoke in front, big smoke in front. Someone's had a big lockup by the look of it. That is a huge lockup. Has somebody, has that become a problem, or is that someone just skating off the road? Because that's more than just a normal lockup by the look of it. Kazoum goes through, so he's in fourth place. Al-Kazemi and Mazza are still there in front of Faisalin, and then obviously Al-Hamidi is there next up in position, so Al-Hamidi in place. I haven't seen King, Loggy or Buchensoff go off the road, but it was certainly one of the three of them finding that their tyre probably looks a bit like a 50p piece at the moment.
It could be Ian Loggy that locked up heavily going down towards turn 2, because it looks like he's slightly lagging behind Buchensoff at the moment in the 63, but when they come across line soon enough, we'll see if that is the case. But that's very uncharacteristic for Ian Loggy to lock up that majorly as well here, even in the Gulf Radical Cup. There is George King, and there's Ian Loggy, so it looks like it was him. It may have actually been, well,
I think it might be Buchensoff, because he's dropped back from them a little bit.
It could have, or it could have been Ian Loggy locking up, and then unfortunately Buchensoff took avoiding action to do it, but I don't think we have a replay because we didn't quite catch it there. But that was a massive plume of smoke there, and that was the battle, of course, for second position between the two. George King now leads by 7/10 of a second. Now, the gap hasn't really fluctuated, but as Jake said, the gap to Buchensoff is 1.2 seconds. So maybe that is the case. Maybe it was the 63 that actually locked up going through turn 10. He was only 5/10 of a second before that behind. Must have had a good run, but unfortunately just missed the braking zone there, as Johnny Kazoum still leads this battle for fourth position here ahead of Mohamed Al-Kazmi, who is keeping Jacopo Mazza at bay.
So on to the max straight they come. King, Loggy and Buchensoff, who have a bit of distance now between themselves and Johnny Kazoum in fourth place. So Loggy is going to be breathing the fumes of George King. If he can get close enough, then he might still have a decent shot. George King is actually a little bit defensive. He kind of feels that Loggy has really caught up in terms of performance. There might be a really strong chance here of Ian Loggy overhauling George King. Look, George King is having to be ultra defensive here. Loggy is putting him under some serious pressure, and this is going to put King very much in dire straits, because now that Loggy is closer to him in pace, don't forget that at the pit stops, due to the handicap system, George King's going to have to be in the pit stop for 15 seconds longer than Ian Loggy. He wants to pull away. He wants to build a gap, and Ian Loggy is not letting him.
It's great to see Tarek Al-Gamal as well in the chat here watching the live stream, and indeed Amir Faisalin has certainly improved here this season. Actually, he's improved year on year. Every single year Amir Faisalin just seems to get better and better, and after he got his first win in one of the endurance races, it's been non-stop for Amir Faisalin. It's just unfortunately bad luck has come his way. A couple of years ago he spent some time in the British Radical Series learning the craft throughout the summertime, because of course here in the United Arab Emirates you have to race during the wintertime when it's much cooler, but of course when it's summertime here, racing is aplenty in Europe, and Amir Faisalin, of course, honed his craft there, currently circulating 7th position and really sticking with the field here. But it's great to see Tarek Al-Gamal here. We certainly do miss you out on track here, Tarek, and we hope to see you soon in due course, and hopefully back behind the wheel of a Radical. As we continue on here, George King has completed 5 laps to Ian Loggy, is 7/10 of a second, and Alex Bukunstov is now 1.2 seconds, so he's lost a further 10th of a second on this lap. Now, with that big lockup, Jake, I presume his tyres, well, they're not going to be friends at the end of this stint here, are they, when they come into the pit lane? Because the team is definitely going to have to check for flat spots. Yeah,
they're not going to be running in such a symbiotic harmony as they are supposed to, as Faisalin once again puts pressure on Al-Hamidi, who is now going to be up alongside him. They're going to come into shot in the background, almost side by side as they come through, I think, although we focus now on King, Loggy and Bukuntsov. Now, this is not good news if you are George King. If you are Ian Loggy, this is brilliant, because the only driver he's really going to battle with after the pit stops is going to be Alex Bukuntsov, because George King is going to be a further 15 seconds or so behind him. Oh, Ian Loggy washes out through turn 11. That was very scary indeed for Loggy. So he was able to save that, but we've seen a couple of drivers spin off with similar ability for the car to wash out. But that was well saved by Ian Loggy, and that is going to cause a little bit of an issue for him. Now, from George King's point of view, excellent. He made a mistake. I'm now going to try and pull out a bit of a gap, and I really need to get my A game together here. But Ian Loggy is determined. He is resolute. I'm going to make this a hat-trick.
And he certainly saw that in his rearview mirror and breathed a little easier there going through that third and final sector. It's down towards turn 16. We come here for the 6th time. The gap will no doubt go up, but it looks like the gap between Ian Loggy and Bukunstov has gone down between the two of them. And let's see what it is this time around. 1.2 seconds last time. It is now down to 1/8 of a second. And of course, he gained 1/4 of a second on that lap because of Ian Loggy running wide. And it looks like Jakub Pomatsa is all over the back of, well, it doesn't look like Al-Kazmi's car. Yeah, it looked like Johnny Kazum's car. So it looks like Al-Kazmi has unfortunately dropped back, but Jakub Pomatsa is now on a mission. He wants to be further up the order because he's only 3/10 of a second off the back of Johnny Kazum for the time being, and looking for a way through. As Mohamed Al-Kazmi drops to 1/8 of a second back, Amir Faisalin is now in 7th position, further 4/10 of a second back from the 47, and Abdul Nasser Al-Hamidi in the 76, the further 7/10 of a second back in the in 8th position, 1.8 seconds up the road from Marcus Bamberg. Ian Roberts, though, is a second behind Marcus Bamberg at the moment. He doesn't seem to be catching up. He's a second back after that dramatic spin he had going through turn, I think it was turn 4 or turn 5, and he just lost it all by his lonesome as George King continues to extend his lead here, but he's going to need to extend it by quite a significant margin. He needs to add at least 15 seconds between himself and Ian Loggy if he wants the best pit stop time here, because of course he has an extra 15 seconds. Ian Loggy doesn't have anything, and here comes Matza on the inside, and Amir Faisalin's going to do the same thing as well on Mohamed Al-Kazmi there.
Yep, so Matza gets up into 4th place, and Faisalin gets the move on Al-Kazmi. So that is 4th for Matza, 6th for Faisalin. And let's be fair, as Al-Kazmi goes up the inside again of Amir Faisalin to take back the place, if George King doesn't pick up the pace here... Oh, Faisalin got him back on the exit, so well done to Faisalin. Now, I will finish my sentence eventually. If George King doesn't pick up the pace here, then he's going to be out in the middle of this gaggle. That's where he's going to end up. He'll be in amongst the Matza, Al-Kazmi, Faisalin, Al-Hamidi squabble. So this is not good news for George King. He really needs to pick up the pace here, because essentially this is where he's likely to end up when the pit stops have all shaped up. He's not going to be battling for the victory. He's going to be battling for the scraps. He needs to pick up the pace, but Ian Loggy is pushing him a lot harder than he was hoping to be pushed.
And that gap up front's actually come down on this lap. It's now 0.7 of a second between George King and Ian Loggy. As Agupa Matza now goes up into 4th position overall here. Bukanstar is dropped back to 1.2 seconds behind the Ian Loggy number 11. And I noticed as well that Ian Roberts is starting to catch Marcus Bamberg again here, and he's up by 0.5 of a second on the back bumper of the number 25, with around just under 30 minutes to go on the clock. We're now into the 29th minute. Oh no, we've got 29th. No, we're into the 16th minute of the race here, as we circulate round for the 8th time here. It's George King who continues to lead, and it looks like Amir Faisalin has got Johnny Kazoum in his sights. They were separated line by 0.9 of a second, but it looks a lot closer than that this time around as they're working their way through turn 8. And there's Abdul Nasser Al Hamid, and you can see the back there. There was Ian Roberts as well, still trying to find a way through and up the order. Haven't seen Ian Roberts on the podium for quite some time here. I think it was the first round actually in the Golf Radical Cup we saw him on the podium. Missed out completely. Actually didn't take part of the Yas races a couple of weeks ago, where we ran 2 sprint races and 1 endurance race. The endurance race finished at about around 11:30 at night due to some barrier repairs, and we had to race on a completely different circuit, which the drivers pretty much adapted to like that. They just clicked instantly.
Well, that's what you have to do sometimes. You may not have the plans of mice and men all sorted and correct, but you do have to be adaptable as a racing driver, and these guys have obviously been incredibly adaptable this weekend, because yesterday the 2 sprint races very different in style to this endurance race. Mind you, having said that, they're treating it as a sprint race at the moment. They've given us just as much action and drama in the first few minutes of the race that we would normally have seen in a sprint race. So Jacopo Mazza has fought his way up into 4th place. George King, Ian Loggy and Alex Bukansov go past our position on the main straight, and there is only 1.5 seconds between the 3 of them, so that's definitely going to be very close on the pit stops. Loggy is going to have to make the perfect pit stop to beat Alex Bukansov out in the lead again due to the pit stop window, and the pit stop window is open now. The pit stop window is open now, so that is where we are going to have the race start. So the pit window is open, pit stops galore from this lap onwards.
And it looks like someone's also being pinged for track limits. Now, usually I got a little bit confused there, because usually the pit window board open comes out sort of underneath the gantry, not up high. It seems to be because we have black and white track limits being dished out. One of the drivers is being pinged. Now, it hasn't said who exactly it is, though, Jake.
No, it hasn't yet. We haven't got that message up. Tarek El Gamal has been watching along, and he says, if I was George, I'd pit now when the lane opens. Pit now to give himself maximum time to fight back through after the stops and to protect himself in case of a safety car. George King will be a wise cookie. I'm sure he will have thought about that possibility as well. So in this current situation, you know, he's not quite going to get out in front of Matza and Kazoum the way things are currently shaping up. He's going to rejoin in about 5th place. So you're absolutely right. He's going to want to put himself into a decent position to give himself as much time as possible to make the fight back. If he does so just before half distance, then he's going to have the best chance possible of having as much time to battle away as is physically possible. It could be very interesting from here on in. But George King is 0.8 ahead of Ian Loggy, 0.7 ahead of Alex Bukansov, and then we've got Jacopo Mazza pulling 2 seconds clear of Johnny Kazoum, and then we have Faisalin still battling away in front of Al-Kazemi, Al-Hamidi, Bamberg and Ian Roberts, who has fought his way back to 10th position, but that spin earlier on will have hampered his tyres. So now we need to keep an eye on the pit lane, because that is when we're going to see our first pit stops. So let's keep one eye on the pit stop cameras, because this is where the real strategy and tactics of the race are going. All 3 of the leaders have gone through, so no pit stops from the leaders. Oh, Roberts! Roberts tank slaps it again! And this time it is going to really hamper his chances of a fight back, because the field has already spread out quite considerably, as is the natural nature of this form of racing. Alex Bukatsov sets the fastest lap at 2:04.653 in his bid to get closer to the 2 cars in front, but Ian Roberts, the car just washes out.
This certainly doesn't seem to be his race all weekend for Ian Roberts at all here. Usually a front runner here in the Golf Radical Cup, was vice champion last year, but this season just unfortunately not going his way. George King leads by 0.6 of a second, and we don't have a single taker for the pit lane this time round. The pit window is officially open, and remember it's only open for about 9 minutes, and all the drivers must come through. Now, is that Amir Faisalin slowing?
Faisalin slowing. Faisalin is slowing. That is not good at all. So we're not entirely sure why. Into the pits, by the way, comes Julien Meunier. He will be the first one to make a pit stop. So Julien Meunier comes in, but that is disastrous news for Amir Faisalin, who is just crawling. He pulls right off the line. Zahir Murad in the Pakistan car is going to storm past him. And I'm afraid for Amir Faisalin, when he comes into the pits, he may not come out again.
And Amir was one of the cars that actually had problems during qualifying yesterday as well. Not sure if it's a similar case to George King, but we did see Amir Faisalin out in race 1, although didn't fare too well to what we've seen him do before, but maybe there might be some gremlins still lurking around in that car somewhere. They just haven't been sorted out, and they've come back now to well, strike again, because we've gone through 20 minutes of the race so far, and Amir Faisalin, it didn't look like he had any contact. He was just offline, letting some cars through, and he certainly didn't have a penalty or had to give any positions back, but unfortunately he just slowed down going through what was turn 4 by the looks of it, as the race leaders decide we're not coming in this time yet. I think Alex Bukanstov is going to wait until the very last moment till Ian Loggy goes in, because these two are battling hard for second position, which of course allowing George King to escape up the road. The gap is 1.5 seconds. That's almost doubled in 2 laps. Matza decides he doesn't want to come in either. He's going to stay out for as long as he can. Marcus Bamberg has come through, so that means we've got a slew of cars entering. Johnny Kazumi is in, Al-Kazimi is in, and Abdel Nasser Al-Hamidi as well. All of these drivers have to do 45 seconds. Actually, no, Johnny Kazum has to be in for a little bit longer because he has that extra time ballast added to his time. Amir Faisalin is coming as well. He'll be interesting to watch if he has to go back out as Johnny Kazum pulls into his pit stop.
There we go. So it's a pit stop frenzy down here in the pits at Dubai Autodrome. Kazum will be in for a total of 55 seconds compared to all the others in the pits other than Amir Faisalin that come into the pits this time, because they will all be in for 45. It's a busy pit lane. Johnny Kazum is in, and so too is Amir Faisalin, but Faisalin was crawling into the pits anyway. So I don't know whether or not Amir Faisalin will actually leave the pit lane again. They're all starting to creep down the pit lane. There is Al-Kazemi, and there is Damian Chosek, so it looks like they're all basically coming in on exactly the same lap. But they have to make sure they're in for 45 seconds. The first one to leave the pit lane here should be the car that was in 5th position. So it should be, well, Johnny Kazum will be 10 seconds longer. This is Zahir Murad. Yes, I was going to say it should be Abdul Nazir Al-Hamidi, who was the next car in the queue. Zahir Murad has left the pit lane rather quickly, I have to say.
He has indeed, and what's interesting as well to note is that these drivers actually don't seem to have a drink bottle system either, because if we saw the 777, Damien is actually taking a drink of water, which is quite interesting. But yes, the 47 has got back out. There's Amir Faisalin. Unfortunately, I think he's going back in the garage. I think whatever issues they had in Q1, unfortunately, has come back.
Well, that's a real shame for Amir Faisalin. His race has just ended. Meanwhile, George King passes the pits. So does Loggy, so does Bukatsov. So they're going to have to do this on the next lap. They've not got any alternative. They've got to come in on the next lap. Otherwise, the pit window is going to close, and all 3 of them are going to take a penalty.
Exactly. If they're running 204s, they're going to have to do it this time round. If they do it, if they miss the pit lane next time round, as Ian Roberts also decides to stay out for an additional lap, I think he's trying to get some time back here, as into the pit lane comes the 25 of Marcus Bamberg. There is not going to be enough time for any of the drivers to do an additional lap after this one and then come into the pit lane, because that would put them outside of the window, and of course they would be penalised for that, and the penalties can be quite costly as well here, the Gulf Renical Cup. They're all post-race penalties or even a drive-through, which could be absolutely disastrous. It looks like the 10 has come in as well. That's Ryu Wang, who's come in from 7th on track.
So the only 5 cars that have not pitted yet are George King, Ian Loggy, Alex Bukansov, Jacopo Mazza, and Ian Roberts, who has gone past the pits, past Marcus Bamberg. So they're the only 5 cars that have yet to make their scheduled mandatory pit stop, as in comes Wang. Cruz is into the pits. He doesn't look particularly rapid. He's having his own race, but obviously he's still enjoying the pressure of the endurance race, having a quick drink of water. Again, just a little bit of a straw cracked through the top of the lid of a water bottle. Seems perfectly acceptable. They've obviously got to use whatever systems they can. Now, this time around, we have got to see King, Loggy, Bukansov, Matza and Bamberg come into the pits as the others who have pitted go past the pit lane. They've got to. This is their last chance. They're not going to get another time to come into the pits. So we wait for the 45 seconds to elapse for Wang. Kazum has gone past the pits behind Al-Kezemi, Al-Hamidi and Murad. So he's obviously got to try and make up a bit of a catch-up.
Now, sorry, Jake.
I was just going to say, now we wait for the pit stops to come in.
Because they're now circulating through Sector 3 here, so we should see them all come in. There is George King. He's coming in. Where is Ian Loggy, though? And where is Alex Bukunstov?
Loggy's gone through!
And that is going to be disastrous. Alex Bukunstov has come in as well. So for Ian Loggy, he will be picking up a penalty here.
Has he left that too late? Surely he has, because he'll have to come in once the 18-minute mark has gone past.
He will have to come in again, and that is absolutely disastrous for him. It looks like he may have got this all wrong.
So essentially, this race is falling into the hands of Alexander Bukuntsov now.
He certainly is, and this will be the first win as well for the Russian if he can do it. Now, all he has to do is make sure that he does exactly 45 seconds stationary. Matza comes in as well. Someone's come in for the second time by the looks of it. It's Ian Roberts, sorry, that's come in the number 7. And he came in from the mid-pack as he was running in 5th position. So he's coming to do his pit stop. It's only Ian Loggy. Now, for Bukunstov and his team, they need to ensure they do exactly 45 seconds. If they go quicker than that, they could incur a penalty. But they will incur a penalty. But if they go slightly over it, they may lose a little bit of ground there as Craig Thompson counts him down.
Yeah, see, everybody else has come into the pits for their pit stop. The 4 of the 5 that had yet to pit. There goes Bukuntsov. He leaves the pits. You've got to wait another 15 seconds, George. Now, there you go. So he gets out. So that's going to be all right for him to get out of the pits. But I'm fairly sure that Ian Loggy is going to come into the pits after the 18 minutes to go signal has been given. And that is going to be catastrophic. We may well get the message come up on our timing screens. If he comes in before the pit lane window is, when the pit lane window is closed, then that's it. He's going to take another penalty. So Ian Loggy, I think he may just about run the gauntlet with this. But we will have to see. As Ian Roberts leaves the pits,
he certainly doesn't have enough time to come in because he's not even gone through. He's not even partway through Sector 3 yet.
18 minutes to go.
And unfortunately, that means Ian Loggy will pick up a post-race penalty now, and he will not be able to take the fight to George King at all, as Ian Roberts is let go and out on track. He's now shown as in 5th position. Well, is number 10 goes through our position.
Oh, no, there's Ian Loggy. There's Ian Loggy coming in. So we're literally a few seconds. So, well, is that going to be benefit of the doubt? That's the thing. Is that going to be benefit of the doubt? Is he going to have made it in time? I'm not entirely sure. We're going to need some clarification on this. Is it 18 minutes to go that the pit lane window closes, or is it 17 minutes to go when the pit lane window closes? Because if it's 17, then he's okay.
It should be 18 minutes, though, because that would be 9 minutes of duration that the pit window is open. But
that's true.
If it is the case, it's a very good calculated risk by Ian Loggy and his team. If not, unfortunately, it's gone the wrong way around there. Ian Loggy taking a little bit of a break and actually waves to the camera there as he sits in his car as the rear tyre pressures are being checked.
Are you in a motor race, Ian, or are you going through the drive-through? Honestly, waving to the cameras. Love it, Ian Loggy. He's got plenty of focus, but he's even got a little bit of time left to big up to the fans. Now, he's going to have a bit of time on his hands. Do you know, I haven't got a sign saying that the pit window is closed. I think he's just managed it.
Well, it doesn't seem to be anything's popping up on our screen here. It's just a bunch of cars are being pinged for track limits.
Now, where is Loggy going to get out? Here comes Bukuntsov. Bukuntsov coming down the straight at full speed. Is Loggy going to beat him out? This is going to be the critical time because there wasn't much time between the two of them. Here they come out onto the circuit. Is Loggy going to get out in front of Bukuntsov? Where is Bukuntsov? Where is he? Where is he? He went past the pits. But has Loggy got out? Oh, he's just in front of him. How about that? There is nothing in it between these two. And now Bukuntsov is going to try and take the lead from Loggy. No chance. And this is game on now.
And Bukuntsov's got to be careful there. He's coming very, very hot here. Ian Loggy has cold tyres as well, so he too needs to be careful. But where is George King in all the mix to this as well? He's shown his 8.8 seconds adrift at the moment, so he's going to be catching up. But we've got a fantastic battle out in front between Ian Loggy and Alex Bukuntsov. And it's basically a battle between the tyres at the moment because Ian Loggy's now coming up to temperature. He's got to be very careful. But Bukuntsov is not going to take this lightly. He is trying every which way to find a way way through here as the Russian, and he's looking for a move here as he picks up the toe. Ian Loggie's trying to break it, but Alex is staying with him as Ian Loggie weaves across the back straight away. Here we go down towards turn 10. Alex looks to the inside. Can he make the move? No, he can't. He's not close enough. There was way more than a radical's length between the two of them, but he's going to try through turn 11. Not quite again, unfortunately.
Drive-through penalty, Ian Loggie. He has taken his pit stop outside the pit window. It's all going to come to nothing. We were debating it. We did say, has he done it or has he not? But it turns out that it's all come to nothing for Ian Loggie. His drive-through penalty has been awarded. It's on our timing screens. He took his pit stop outside the pit window. Didn't we say that he had to make it on that lap? He couldn't have waited another lap. Otherwise, it would have been just a few seconds outside the window. And it was. He came in about 13 seconds after the pit stop window had closed.
And that kind of came out of the halfway point of the track, which now, if we had team radio, Alex Rukanstov's team could have said to him, look, stop fighting him, save your tyres, conserve the energy, and just because Ian Loggie has a penalty to deal with, you're not to do with it. There it is on the left-hand side of our picture there. It says drive-through penalty on for Ian Loggie for number 11, and he's not going to be happy about that. There's going to be no wave this time round. I think there might be another gesture, maybe a shaking of the fist there. But Alex Rukanstov has seen that. George King has seen it as well, and he knows what he has to do now. He only needs to fight Alex Rukanstov. But that is not going to be easy. The gap is 8 seconds between the two of them. Yes, George King is rapid. However, Alex Rukanstov is a very, very tough man to pass, and he's a very feisty driver. This is going to be a fantastic last 14 minutes of the race, Jake.
Well, you have to say, as a spectator, as a lover of motorsport, and as a passionate aficionado of radical racing, we've been robbed here, haven't we? Ian Loggie just not quite timing his pit stop right. Alex Bukatsov doesn't need to get past Ian Loggie. But the thing is, he was so busy trying to get in his toe. Did he even see that he's got a drive-through? He may not have seen that he's got a drive-through penalty because, as you pointed out, there's no radio communication back to the pits. So if he didn't see the board stating that Ian Loggie has got a drive-through penalty, he may still think, well, I've got to get past him, otherwise I'm not going to win my first endurance race. But he doesn't need to do this. Loggie has got a drive-through penalty, and George King may well have had a little bit of time on his hands to spot it, and now he'll start to knuckle down and get on with it and try and close up on Bukatsov. We could still have a great race to the line, but unfortunately it's not going to be with Ian Loggie involved in it.
It certainly won't. It looks like Ian Loggie maybe dropped behind Matza as well on the 68, so he may be down with a 47, so it'll be a great battle for fourth position there. But for the time being, Alex Rukanstov is your race leader. On paper, it might be, or better yet, on screen, it might be in Loggie, but with that drive-through penalty, he's going to have a very long drive through that pit lane, and it's going to be an eternity for him.
And of course, that is one of the reasons why we don't have radio communication. It would be far too easy for the team to say, right, you're not going to make it, pit in. You have to leave it up to the driver. They have to call the tactics. And unfortunately, on this occasion, Ian Loggie, who does not pit yet, he does not take his drive-through penalty yet. Look, they are gesturing to him on the pit wall. Dude, you've got to come in. You've got to come in. You've got to get the drive-through penalty. Otherwise, we're going to get excluded. You've got to take it, mate.
And of course
big drama.
Sorry, Jake, to cut you off there. Of course, he has to do it within 3 laps as well. If he doesn't, that's when the exclusion comes in, or even, well, an exclusion or a harsher penalty. I don't know what's harsher than an exclusion, though.
And that was 2 laps. So that was the second time he's passed the pits with the signal. So if he passes it one more time, well, I don't want to be in that steward's room when that conversation with Ian Loggie happens, because I'm a dear friend of Ian Loggie and I've got a lot of respect for the man. But it's very easily done when you're so focused. You've got tunnel vision as a racing driver. The only thing you're focused on is the guy behind must not get through. If he's not paying attention for that split second when he goes past the pits, then it's all going to come awry. But Ian Loggie will be bitterly frustrated, because in 2 minds he's going to say, well, maybe I can contest it. Perhaps forgiveness is going to be easier than permission. However, that's running the gauntlet in a completely different way. Now, let's focus on this for the moment. This is Al-Kazemi and Al-Hamidi. They are dueling over 5th position, these two. Jacopo Mazza has really managed to pick up the pieces after his pit stop and solidly put himself into a strong position. Fair play to Johnny Kazoum. He's got himself right onto the back of Zaire Murad once again. He's doing a fantastic job at the moment as he puts pressure on Marcus Bamberg.
And Ian Loggie there bouncing all over the curves through turn 11 there. That's not what you want to do, Ian, for the time being. You need to get that car in shape if you want to continue on. Now, of course, Ian Loggie will be dropped back into that battle behind Jacopo Mazza. And actually, for Mazza, this could actually be his first podium of the 2021-2022 season, as Johnny Kazoum is keeping Zaher Murad at bay here, going through turn 10. Now, This is going to be very interesting to see where Ian Loggy gets dropped back to, and Alex is still fighting him, although Alex has now dropped back. Does Ian Loggy turn right? Well, we didn't quite catch it. Let's see if he appears on our left-hand side as Al Hamidi's gone through, but has he quite yet? Because here comes the 47. He wants to come. He wants that position back, and that sounds like Ian Loggy coming into the pit lane.
Yeah, it does. I think Ian Loggy has peeled in. Yep, he's come in for his drive-through penalty. What a shame for Ian Loggy. He just miscalculated by 1 lap. If he had come in at exactly the same time as King and Bukansov, he would still be fighting for the lead of this race. He would still be contesting the victory. What a shame. What a shame for Ian Loggy. He's got to trundle his way all the way down the pit lane, take the drive-through. Now, is he going to get out in front of Matza, or is he going to get out behind him? I think Matza's just gone through. So Matza, yeah, here comes the battle behind them. So Matza is into 3rd position. Loggy rejoins in 4th. The podium's gone.
It has indeed, and Matza's been elevated to 3rd position. More importantly, that gap between now Alex Bukansov and George King is not coming down. It's now gone up to 9 seconds separating the 2 minutes. Actually 9.1 seconds across the line. George King may lose another victory, but not to Ian Loggy this time. It might go the way of Alex Bukansov, who's looking for his first race victory here in the 2021-2022 Gulf Radical Cup. Will be a fantastic effort for him in this endurance race here at the Dubai Autodrome. There he is, of course, now. He's got nothing to worry about in front of him anymore. He's got no one to overtake. He does need to be a little careful now. He can't take it too easy. He still has 9 minutes to go, and if George King keeps picking off at 1 second a lap, he can catch him up. However, we need to see that come from George King first, if he can do that. But if there's anyone on track that can, it might be George King. Although we did see Alex Bukansov do it yesterday during one of our races, but that's because he got done for track limits a number of times. He was able to catch up by a second, but I don't think George King will be able to do it here. But 8 minutes is 8 minutes, and it's still plenty of time left on the clock as Marcus Bamberg locks up going into turn 10, and that's Johnny Kazum, who he's fighting with at the moment, who's just gone around the outside of him through turn 11, as our race leader now works his way through the penultimate corner, and he's looking rather comfortable.
Right, Alex, breathe, chill, and lay back. Don't push the car too hard. Just take it 1 corner at a time. Now, there is a flag and a number being shown to Alex Bukansov. Now, I don't know if that's just being shown to everybody in the thread of the race, or if that was a signal to him specifically.
It's black and white, so it would be for track and limits somewhere, but it hasn't popped up on screen who would that be.
No, it hasn't. Well, he's going faster than he has all race. He's just popped in the fastest lap. 2 minutes 4.357. So Bukansov is definitely in the zone. George King is 10.4 seconds behind him. So it looks to me as though Bukansov is going to get his victory, and that's great from the purist of competition point of view, because you don't want one driver winning everything. But George King has definitely been caught this weekend. He has been levelled, he has been matched, and as far as he's concerned, he's been found wanting, as both Ian Loggy and Alex Bukansov look like they're going to take a victory or two off him over the course of this race. So Bukansov in front of George King, and it's going very well indeed as they continue to battle away.
It certainly is for the Russian here, as Jake said. 10.4 seconds is quite a margin as well to claw back that much time in 7 minutes. I think George King's going to have to ask for a miracle here if he wants to be back on the top step of the podium. He may settle for second because, of course, he's the championship leader, and he almost had double the points going into this race weekend than Ian Loggy had. So, of course, second position is more than enough points for him to extend his championship lead. There is Ian Loggy. He is now down into 4th position. He's 6.5 seconds adrift from Jakob Matza, and who in turn is looking for his first podium finish. Is Matza currently running in a very strong 3rd position on track in the number 68 car here. There we go, back with the race leader sitting comfortably ahead of George King. Now that's Julien Monet, who's come across line. He's 21 seconds adrift from Kosiak. Now Ian Roberts is back up in the top 10. He is 10.6 seconds from Murad in the 23, who in turn is just 16 of a second from Marcus Bamberg, as the number 5 of Johnny Kazum applying the pressure to the back bumper of Al-Kazmi. Here's they work their way through turn 12 and down into the runoff now towards turn 14. He's going to try and see if he can find a way on the inside here, but it looks like he's not close enough. He's going to brake as late as he dares here if he wants to make a move. He could try around the outside. Yes, he is, but he's going to try and get the switch back here through the bowl complex, but not close enough as Al-Kazmi closes the door on him now. Through turn 15 we go. That's the penultimate corner as Murad is applying the pressure to Marcus Bamberg. as he races away through the penultimate corner as well. Gap up front has gone up to 11 seconds, so it might be a comfortable victory here for Anish Bukanshov. As we said, it could be his first victory, as it looks like Johnny Kazum is picking up the toe of Al-Kazmi. As we work our way now down towards turn 1 here for the 19th time. The number 5 looks to the inside, but thinks better of it, just keeps on the toe. He's biding his time here, trying to force an error out of Al-Kazmi here in the 47, but it might take a while for that to happen, as Johnny Kazum loses a little bit of time there going through the first couple of corners.
So a 10-second penalty has been announced, and that is for Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, and that is for excessive track limits, repeatedly exceeding track limits after warning. So he will get a 10-second penalty, and that will drop him from 5th position. All that hard work that he has made to make up, and that's going to put him in 9th position behind Zaire Murad of the Team Pakistan car. There is Ian Loggy running in 4th position, and that is likely to be where he will cross the line. There's a warning now for car 25 for track limits. That is Marcus Bamberg. If these guys keep picking up penalties, then Zaire Murad is going to end up in the top 6 at this rate. He's doing a great job and really starting to hassle the drivers in front of him, as now Johnny Kazum is all over the back of Al-Kazemi. So this could be a nice little tussle between these two.
He's keeping his nose nice and clean, is Murad, as he works his way through Sector 2 here, trying to find a way past Marcus Bamberg. A little bit further back, just in front of them is Johnny Kazum and Al-Kazemi here, who are battling still on track currently for 6th position. And Johnny Kazum's trying to find a way through, as Al-Hamidi is just up the road as well, but not in close proximity. They don't have to worry too much about fighting him, because of course he has that 10-second penalty that will drop him down the order. Up front though, it's 11 seconds though between Alex and George for the time being. It's 63 and the 14 out in front, and Kupomatsa looking for his first visit to the podium here in the 2021-2022 season of the Gulf Radical Cup, running in 3rd in the 68. He's 5.8 seconds from George King. 5.1 seconds from him is Ian Loggy, and rounding out the top 5 is the number 76, but of course he has that penalty of 10 seconds, so it's actually Al-Kazmi who will be in 5th position overall. As across the line we come now to complete lap number 19, now down towards turn 1 we go. Al-Hamidi's leading this little pack here, the battle for 5th position, isn't it? Yes, because that's where he is on track for the time being, but the two behind him are actually squabbling for 5th position technically overall because of that penalty that is to be handed out. Now, it's interesting to note that nothing has come up about the start. I'm pretty sure I saw Al-Hamidi out of position, and he certainly was ahead of the 777, but those are my eyes, those are not the steward's eyes, so my eyes could be broken, which is a definite possibility here. I should start wearing glasses more often, but I presumed I might have seen something, but I guess I'm just a commentator here, not the race official.
Did you not get that Mad Eye Moody replica, you know, third eye that I sent you for Christmas? Did you not get that?
No, it must not come through the post.
Oh, I used the wrong courier. That's what it was. Fair enough. I'll have to make sure I get a better one for you next time. Al-Hamidi is battling away with Al-Kazemi and Johnny Kazum, and this is definitely going to be the trio battling away for P5, although, of course, the man at the front of this queue has got a 10-second penalty, whether he knows about it or not, as Al-Kazemi has a look. Kazum is going to have a look as well. So two drivers make an overtaking move on the car in front of them, and Al-Kazemi's now going ultra defensive, although Johnny Kazum is trying to pick it up, and he's going to come out of the previous corner faster. He's going to draw level and get alongside Kazum. He gets through, no problem at all. Oh, but he runs wide on the exit. Oh, and a big slip from Al-Kazemi. He leaves 2 big black lines of rubber on the road as he desperately tries to catch the back end of the car, and Johnny Kazum hangs onto it. That was like something out of a Sly Stallone movie, and on the inside, Al-Kazemi tries and they make contact, and Kazum goes wide. Kazum actually catches Al-Kazemi's car as he drifts wide. His hand is in the air. What are you playing at? That was absolutely unbelievable between the two of them, and Al-Kazemi's car has been pitched. Well, let's have a look at it again, because that's so unfortunate that they managed to come together. It was so close up until that point. So let's have a look at it. So look, Al-Kazemi, look how much curb he's using to get on the inside line there. Kazum is trying to squeeze him. He's on the road. Al-Kazemi was not. There's a little bit of contact between them. And look at Kazum. As he spins, he actually collects Al-Kazemi's car again as they go through. And Kazum, his hand is in the air. Come on, man, you weren't even on the racetrack when you made that move.
Yeah, and he's going to be really upset about that, isn't he now? Unfortunately, that drops him way down the order, and there's no possibility because he's come into the pit lane now with that damaged rear wing. Oh, and he's actually got more damage. The left rear is damaged as well.
Yeah, the left rear quarter has been completely folded in upon itself. That looks like he's gone 10 rounds with Muhammad Ali. Well, that's unfortunate. What a way to end the race between those two. It was looking pretty exciting all the way through up until that point, but it's ended the way we didn't want it to end. And so both drivers are going to be struggling to come up with the right excuses in front of the stewards, aren't they? What, Your Honour? I didn't do anything, Your Honour.
Yeah, and we're now into the last 30 seconds here of the race as Morad looks for the inside of Marcus Bamberg, but thinks better of it. Looks in behind, and it looks like Marcus Bamberg just missed the race, the braking port there. I think he was staring in his rearview mirrors to see what Morad was up to. And as he takes a quick trip over the rumble strips there.
Do you know, that was more Colin McRae than it was Marcus Bamberg, wasn't it? The back end properly lit as he came through. The time has ticked down to 0, and Alex Bunkertsoff triumphs for the first time in an endurance race. He takes his first win. He has finally been rewarded. Second place for George King. He will come home and collect solid points, and Jacopo Mazza will take his first podium of the 2021-22 campaign.
And he's going to be very happy with that, as will the team. George King comes across the line in second position. Ian Loggy, though, managed to catch up massively there in the last lap. 2.6 seconds separate the two of them. And Al-Hamidi, he won't be told about the penalty unless the team has some sort of communication, but he will not be fifth at the line. He does come across. It will be Al-Kazmi who races Murad down to the very last moment there, as across the line he comes just ahead of Murad, as Marcus Bamberg, unfortunately, due to that off-track excursion through turn 10, has dropped him way back in the clutches of Ian Roberts. Johnny Kazuma is what we saw coming into the pit lane, as the rest of the field now work their way across the line. But a well-deserved victory there for Alex Bukhanchdov. He didn't put a single foot wrong, at least from what we saw. He may have locked up through turn 10 earlier in the race, but it seems to be he's done it, and he's kept that car in good shape, and he's now got his first win in the Golf Radical Cup.
Fantastic stuff. Thanks again, Chris. I know you've got a podium to do, and we'll see you back again for the F4 UAE Championship finale later today. But Alex Bukhanchdov finally gets his first win in the Enduro, and that is a big moment for him. That will be a big opportunity for him as he continues to make progress. George King in second from Jacopo Mazza and Ian Loggy. Abdulnazir Al-Hamidi, but he will take a penalty. Mohamed Al-Kazemi and Zaire Murad from Marcus Bamberg and Ian Roberts. Ray Yu Wang, and then the drivers who fell back. Johnny Kazum, Julien Moni, Damien Chosek, Amir Faisalin and James Sweetnam. A very tough race battle with the last two, Faisalin and Sweetnam, managing to retire before the race was done. Well, it's been quite an exciting race once again in the Golf Radical Cup. 45 minutes of no holds barred, tension, drama, suspense and rapidity game of chess that you will ever see. Brilliant stuff. And Alex Bukhanchdov comes of age as he gets the win. Let's look over the best bits of this fantastic Enduro. So, right from the start, we knew it was going to be very close between George King and Ian Loggy. Alex Bukhanchdov almost got himself on the inside of Ian Loggy. Loggy had to work hard to defend and cover as James Sweetnam got accidentally tipped into a spin by Mohamed Al-Kazemi. And unfortunately for Sweetnam, that would be a race-ending incident. But there was a big moment for Ian Roberts, who just lost the car completely on the way through to turn 5. So, big drama for him. Now, George King was well aware of the fact that there would be a 15-second additional hold in the pits for him. But George King was trying his best to get away from Loggy and Bukhanchdov. It didn't work out. They left their pit stops very late in the end. And unfortunately for Ian Loggy, who was battling all the way through that thriller of a race encounter, he wasn't able to make the most of it. Jacopo Mazza, a great performance, and he would come home in the end for his first podium finish. Some great performances in the middle of the field as well as there was up at the front. But Ian Loggy got out of his pit stop right in front of Bukhanchdov. Sadly though, despite their battle for position, Loggy would then take a drive-through penalty for leaving his own pit stop just a little bit too late. Zaire Murad covered himself in glory and did a fantastic job as he battled away in the top 6. And then we had the rather unfortunate end to the race between Mohamed Al-Kazemi and Johnny Kazum. They battled away for position, and it ended up getting very messy indeed as they ended up collecting each other off the race circuit, and their race would come to a very difficult end. Here was the start of it as Al-Kazemi chopped across and managed to thwart Kazoum. Then he got him back on the switch. The back end kicked out, managed to catch it, and then just one corner later, desperation took over, and he ended up going straight into the side of Johnny Kazoum. But a great race out in front for Alex Bukansov. He would take his first victory, and it would be a magic performance in front of George King, and the first time visit to the podium for Jacopo Mazza. There'll be more great Golf Radical Cup on the way in the latter stages of the season. We hope you've enjoyed it. Have a great continuation to the race weekend. We're going to continue coverage of the Dubai Autodrome's race weekend with